What if I told you that Donald Trump's obsession with Greenland is about far more than just national security? In fact, it might be a power play to reshape the entire global order. Sounds unbelievable, right? Yet there's a growing circle of powerful figures who see Greenland not as an island but as a gateway to unimaginable wealth and unchecked influence. Why does this matter to you? Because what happens in Greenland might set the stage for a dramatic shift in how the world is run. And it's already happening. But to understand why, we need to dive deeper into the story that no one's telling. You'll want to stay for this because the next steps could change everything. Trump's fixation on Greenland isn't just some eccentric whim. It's part of a much bigger strategy that's unfolding behind closed doors. On the surface, his reasoning sounds simple enough: national security. He argues that the US needs Greenland to fend off threats from Russia and China, who allegedly have a growing presence in the region. But here's the catch: there's no real evidence supporting his claims. In fact, it's almost as if he's fabricating a crisis just to justify a land grab. Now consider this. Why would Trump care so much about a sparsely populated island thousands of miles away with little connection to the US? The answer isn't about securing the nation's borders. It's about something much more profitable. It's about a new form of imperialism, one that benefits a select group of American oligarchs who have long been in Trump's orbit. And this is where things get even more interesting. It's not just about annexing land, it's about what's beneath it. Greenland sits atop an untouched wealth of resources: gold, zinc, copper, uranium, and even rare minerals used in everything from electronics to energy production. But here's the part no one's saying out loud. It's not just the US government eyeing these treasures. A group of ultra-wealthy investors closely linked to Trump has already started making moves in Greenland. They've been quietly backing companies that are mapping out the island's mineral wealth, planning to swoop in once the region is free of any regulatory constraints. One of the companies making a move is Cobalt Metals, backed by tech moguls like Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos. They're positioning themselves to profit immensely if Greenland falls under American control. And that's just the beginning. The key question here is, what happens when the rich and powerful are allowed to operate without oversight, without accountability? Because right now, that's exactly what's on the table. The situation is escalating quickly. These oligarchs aren't just sitting on the sidelines anymore. They're actively pushing for the kind of imperial expansion we haven't seen in over a century. This isn't just a few corporate donors backing a president. It's a coordinated effort to reshape entire regions for profit. If you're wondering how this is even possible, look back at history. Think about the sugar barons in Hawaii or the corporate-backed interventions in Central America. The US government has long been a tool for American corporations to expand their reach. But what we're seeing now is a full-circle return to those darker days where the influence of oligarchs is directly steering foreign policy. And it's not just about raw materials anymore. This is about the removal of any barriers, regulatory, democratic, or otherwise, that stand in the way of unchecked power. The idea is simple: make the rules, break the rules, and profit from the chaos. Greenland becomes ground zero for this new era, where billionaires and politicians merge into a force that operates without restraint. But it gets darker. The idea of seizing Greenland isn't just about resources or political power. It's also a test for something much more radical. Enter the network state movement. Think of it as a digital, decentralized form of governance that bypasses traditional nation-states altogether. Led by figures like Dryden Brown of Praxis, this movement envisions a new kind of society, one where the rules are written by a small elite and the rest of the world watches from the sidelines. The vision: a world where financial oversight, regulations, and democratic checks are stripped away. The idea is to create sovereign networks, tax-free, deregulated spaces controlled by tech elites who govern their own little kingdoms. And Greenland? It's the perfect laboratory for these utopian or dystopian fantasies. It's not just about mining minerals, it's about creating a testing ground for a new kind of global empire. If they succeed here, the blueprint could spread with unimaginable consequences. Now think about this. The players behind Praxis aren't just fringe figures. They're some of the wealthiest and most influential people in America. Peter Thiel, Mark Andreessen, and Sam Altman, names synonymous with Silicon Valley power, are backing this radical vision for Greenland. They believe that with the right amount of capital and influence, they can bypass old institutions and create their own system, one where the typical rules of democracy and regulation don't apply. This isn't just some tech startup dream. Praxis is a direct challenge to the entire structure of global governance. And it's not just happening in some abstract, distant future, it's unfolding right now. With the backing of these powerful figures, Greenland could become the first true test case for the network state idea, setting the stage for the rest of the world to follow. If it works, it could lead to a whole new era of private governance, where power isn't determined by nations or the people, but by the whims of a select few. As these oligarchs push their vision forward, the stakes grow higher and the pressure mounts. Investors are betting big on Greenland as the next frontier. Silicon Valley's obsession with creating a libertarian paradise on the island is already in full swing. According to reports, these tech investors are talking about transforming Greenland into a hub for artificial intelligence, autonomous vehicles, and even space launches. It sounds like something straight out of a futuristic fantasy, but the reality is far more grounded in one thing: profit. One of the most striking elements of this push is the involvement of Trump's own appointee, Ken Howery. A former venture capitalist, Howery was appointed as U.S. ambassador to Denmark with a mandate to lead negotiations for Greenland. The kicker? Howery is directly tied to the same oligarchic interests pushing for the land grab. So in a way, the U.S. government isn't just participating in this imperialist project, it's actively facilitating. And this is where things get truly dangerous. What happens if these negotiations succeed? If Trump, backed by a group of billionaires, is allowed to seize Greenland, it could fracture not just NATO but the entire global order. This isn't some isolated conflict, it's the beginning of a new chapter in imperialism. A chapter where the U.S. and a handful of powerful interests dictate terms to the world, ignoring international law and alliances. The implications are staggering: a new arms race, increased tensions with Russia and China, and potentially a full-scale reshaping of geopolitics. This isn't just about Greenland anymore, it's about testing the limits of power in a new era where wealth and influence trump diplomacy and global cooperation. What happens next depends on the outcome of these high-stakes negotiations. If Greenland falls, what other territories will be next? How far will these oligarchs push to secure their dominance? Let's step back for a moment and consider the real-world impact of all this. For you, the average citizen, it may seem distant, even irrelevant. But the consequences are far-reaching. If this vision of unchecked power, where corporations and oligarchs control territory without oversight, becomes reality, it will set a precedent for future actions. You might find yourself living in a world where the rights of ordinary people are disregarded in favor of billionaire interests. And it's not just the wealthy investors and politicians who will be impacted. You too will feel the ripple effects. From environmental degradation to the erosion of democratic freedoms, the consequences of this kind of unchecked imperialism will trickle down to affect every aspect of your life. The world may never look the same again. If this feels familiar, say so in the comments, because this could be just the beginning of something much larger. So how does all of this happen? Why are these oligarchs able to steer so much power with so little resistance? The answer lies in the systems that allow this to happen. The networks of wealth, influence, and control that have been quietly reshaping the world for decades. These players know exactly how to manipulate systems, whether it's bypassing regulations, exploiting legal loopholes, or using their vast fortunes to shift political power in their favor. What's happening here is more than just a land grab, It's a blueprint for how the future of power might look. If they succeed in Greenland, the system that allows them to sidestep traditional governance could spread, infecting other areas of the globe. And it's not just about money, it's about rewriting the rules of society. This is the dark side of oligarchy, and it's more dangerous than we realize. Looking ahead, there are two possible futures. On one hand, the push for Greenland could become the spark that ignites widespread resistance, both from other countries and from citizens within the U.S. If this imperialistic push is met with enough opposition, it could unravel the plans of these oligarchic forces and force a re-evaluation of how global power is distributed. On the other hand, if these powerful elites succeed, we could see the start of a new age of unchecked corporate governance, one where private interests control vast swaths of land and resources with little regard for national sovereignty or the will of the people. The future would be one where these network states proliferate, carving up the world into corporate-controlled enclaves. What happens next? The momentum is building and the next move is already in play. One thing is certain, the way the world operates will never be the same. Here's the unsettling truth. Greenland isn't just a battle for land, it's a glimpse into the future of power. If the oligarchs win, it could set a dangerous precedent for how nations, territories, and people are governed. It's a future where the rich dictate the rules, and the rest of us are left with the fallout. In the end, this isn't just about one island or one president. It's about the world being reshaped by forces that few understand and even fewer can control. And as the next stage unfolds, we'll be left watching to see if anyone can stop the rise of this new empire. The question is, will we be passive spectators or active participants in how this story ends? For continued analysis, follow or subscribe because this is just the beginning.